Hi, I'm Keith and welcome back to the vlog. So this week we're going to do things a little different. Sorry, present day Keith. This week we're going to show a hike from 2024.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious.
What about the walk?
Just take a break. This is Gold Branch. Gold Branch was one of my favorite trails to hike when I lived in Georgia. So for this week, we're going to dive back into the past and we're going to cover what happened at the end of 2023 going into 2024. But first, let's give some updates. This last week was kind of an exhausting one, not gonna lie. I came out the gates with a 6-mile day and I felt pretty good doing the walk. I felt pretty good shortly after the walk, but then later that night, I started to really feel it. The next morning, I had flared up all the pains. The back was hurting, the knee was hurting. The old man pain from a few weeks ago was back with a vengeance. And I thought, oh crap, I think I might have overdone it. But nonetheless, I got up and I still went for a walk the next morning. And I did 5 miles. So I did stick with 5 miles for the rest of the week, regardless of some of the pain. There were plenty of mornings this past week when I did not want to get up, but you always got to find that reason to get up in the morning and take the walk. And well, I have a few. The diet this week was definitely not the best it's been. I started getting hit with this fatigue. I think it was because of the increase of the 5 miles every day. I was pushing really hard with that. I was doing other tasks I have to get completed around the house. And I think my body was just starved. So I started to increase the calories. I still ate the healthier stuff, but just a lot more of it. And when I weighed myself this week, the weight didn't change. It didn't go up, it didn't go down. So I don't know if that means the plateau is here. I don't know if that means it was just the adjustment to the diet this past week, if I need some time to readjust to that. I'm not worried, not even remotely. It's just one of those things where as long as I continue to push through, hopefully the weight will start to go down again. I think the biggest thing for me right now is to build up the endurance with the walking, which is what I have done. I should have followed up on this. The pains did go away throughout the course of the week, and I do feel considerably better with that. Although this morning I woke up with a pretty bad headache and I was pretty tired and I did not want to come out here, but nonetheless, here we are. And now we return to the past. So the end of 2023, my father had beaten the cancer. Everything was going well with that. And I once again left New York to get back to my own life. I ended up in Georgia, a place where I've always had good luck when it's come to things. Now, something really important to bring up. In the past, when I've gone to Georgia, I have friends that live in Georgia. I have one friend who's one of my best friends from the military who has a house in Georgia. In the past, I've rented a room from him and sometimes he lets me stay there for free. But with this next adventure, I didn't want to be a burden on my friend. He has been so generous in the past. So I hatched what I called Operation Homeless. Yes, I would do a weight loss journey in Georgia while living out of my car. I know, sounds kind of crazy. And if I have any regret from this time period, it wasn't doing weekly vlogs because this was a lot of fun. Transportation was easy. I have my car. And one of the things that was important for this was I would only take what would fit in the trunk. I had this thought process of I didn't want to have a car littered with stuff. I didn't want to spell it out to people that, oh yeah, this guy's living out of his car. So if it didn't fit the trunk, it didn't go with me. Next up, finding a place to park for the evening, somewhere that was secure, but not loud. And that was fairly easy. There's many places you could park. And when you're living in your car, if you're smart, you're very stealthy. Not a lot of people will pay attention to you. Low profile is essential there. Now, the next big thing is, well, how are you going to keep yourself clean? Hygiene is very important. Well, that was also easy. See, I found the perfect stretch of road that had everything I required right there along the road, including a place to take a shower. There was a Planet Fitness that I got a Black Card membership for, which gave me access to the locker room, the showers, the massage chairs, and some other extras. Plus, the staff there was really nice. I don't think they knew I was living out of my car because I think I put down my friend's address as a local address, but it didn't matter. They were just really nice people regardless. And I think they're, the no judgment zone or something, so that'd be pretty messed up if they did judge me on that. So we've got shelter, we've got hygiene, but Keith, what the hell are you gonna do down there? How are you gonna eat? How are you gonna eat healthy living out of your car? Well, that's a good question. Now, when I was there in 2022, going into 2023, I had a part-time job. I had a really cool manager that I worked with that seemed to be very supportive of things. And when I came back to Georgia, I popped in to say hello, and it turned out that the person they hired to replace me was gonna be leaving soon, and they were gonna have a position open. My position was gonna open back up. So There was definitely an element of luck to this. And because I was going to get hired back there, the manager knew my situation, knew what I was doing, thought it was pretty cool. He allowed me to use the mini fridge at work. I mean, I'm going to be an employee there soon anyway. So here's how I handle the diet. The diet was stripped down to the absolute basics. Oatmeal for breakfast with honey and cinnamon, just like in the past. I bought myself a car kettle, something I could plug into a power outlet, heat up water in the morning to make the oatmeal. For coffee, I had bought a coffee pot for the store, and every night before they would close up, I would brew up a pot of coffee, fill up my thermos, so I'd have hot coffee in the morning. Now for lunch and dinner, this is where things get more simplistic as far as diets in the past. I've always talked about how variety was one of the more important things on a diet. There wasn't a lot of variety with this one. I couldn't really cook food the way I have in the past, so instead I would start buying rotisserie chickens from grocery stores. Right there in my car with my food scale and some baggies, I would break it up into different portions, and then I had my protein. Veggies were super easy. I would just get a bag of the frozen veggies you could heat up in the microwave. For starches, well, I did have my potato steamer for the microwave. I primarily stuck with rice, mainly because it was less messy and less of a hassle. So for the most part, the diet was chicken, veggies, and rice, and the variety came in with flavoring. Not a whole lot, but just enough not to get too bored eating the same thing every day. So now I have a place to stay, my car. I have a place to shower, the gym. I figured out how to work the diet. I have a job I'm going to be starting at some point. Oh, and real quick, I found a really nice laundromat owned by this really nice older couple. And like I said, all of this was along the same stretch of road. Well, now that all that was established, now it was time to get back down to business. So I would start with the hiking. There wasn't walking this time. We were going right in for the hiking. First hike, Soap Creek. Soap Creek is a place I had been to many times in the past. It's an easier hike, and while yes, half the hike is downhill, the other half is uphill, but it's a more gradual uphill. It's not overly straining. The biggest obstacle on that trail is the people on bikes. You have to make sure they're following the proper direction. You gotta make sure you don't get hit by a bike. I thought for sure I'd spend the rest of December at Soap Creek, but it turns out I started to get my hiking skills back very quickly. In fact, within about a week or two, I was back at the Gold Branch. So throughout December, I started to dominate. The weight started going down at a very exponential pace. I was getting my bearings back. And when I started working again, it was even better because now I'm working, it's taking up more time in the day. I'm not sitting around bored or, anything potentially destructive. Things were going great. My hiking endurance was improving. My time was getting better. I got a little too good. The irony was at this time I was still around 355 pounds, but didn't matter. I've always been good on my feet, even when I have been on the heavier side. The big thing was the January 28th date was approaching, and it was really important to me to get something filmed on the 28th in honor of what was the 6-year anniversary of creating the vlog. About a week after the hike you're seeing now was filmed, is when the first real problem arose. I was hiking Gold Branch Trail and I had an incident. I'm doing the hike at Gold Branch and I'm kicking ass. I see these two women ahead of me on the trail. So me being the show off blows right past them, on your left. And as I'm going, I get a little bit further up and then my foot hits this overgrown root on the trail and I stumble and almost fall into the Chattahoochee River. But I plant my right foot down, twist my body, and I popped my bad knee the worst I had ever popped it. It was in utter agony. And at the point where I did it, I was still a good mile away from the parking lot. So I had to suck it up, grunt, scream, bitch, complain, all the way back to the car. I had to go to the gym, take a shower. I got dressed for work, went to work. The boss was really understanding. They let me kind of sit down on a stool for most of the shift. Didn't have to go help any customers out on the floor. But that night I was in the hospital because it was that bad. So I thought, I've messed up the knee before. This won't take long at all to heal up. After a month of not being able to hike, I was finally back out on the trails. Once again, I had to rebuild from almost scratch. So I started at Soap Creek again. But this was really the golden era of things. As the weeks went by, the hikes increased, the hikes changed. Time was starting to go by at a rapid pace now. I was back on track with the weight loss. I was rebuilding my hiking endurance. Every morning was somewhere different, somewhere beautiful, somewhere inspiring. I had my favorites. The challenges increased. I started doing Kennesaw Mountain again. I started going back to Red Top Mountain. Work was going great. The job was simple. I worked in an auto parts store and I would help people. I would help them find the parts they needed. I would help them with their wiper blades or their batteries, and you know, it was easy. I'd put stock up on the shelves. I liked my coworkers. Things were going perfect. I dare say this may very well be one of the happiest times of my life. And all the while, I'm living out of my car. It's weird how things work out like that. But it's Georgia, and the weather is starting to get warmer. And I find it when I'm out working and I'm out on the trail and I'm in the car hanging out, I gotta keep the car running with the AC going. Nighttime's still pretty decent until it isn't. And now I got a problem because I'm not in a secure spot. I can't keep the windows down when I sleep. I have screens for the windows. I learned about those after a mosquito-infested campground in Grand Teton in 2022 that I would have to improvise something. And the screens worked during the day when I was awake, but at night, I would be vulnerable. So I made a makeshift air conditioner so I wouldn't exhaust my AC compressor or my battery. I got a styrofoam cooler, a fan, a plastic pipe, and a whole bunch of ice, and I made an air conditioning unit for the car. And it worked great, 2 hours at a time. So the heat was gonna be a problem. But I think that is where we're gonna leave things for today. This video has gone on way too long. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care, and I'll see you later.